Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this governance diagnostic report was prepared by the Civil Society Initiative on Anti-Corruption Reform for Economic Recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, this is comprising of several civil society initiatives, and I believe that the Executive Director of TISL, Nadishani Perera, will address you on that fact when she delivers the opening address, and I cordially invite now onto the stage the Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Attorney at Law, Nadishani Perera, to deliver the welcome address.
A very good morning to you all. Dear distinguished members of civil society, our colleagues, including representatives from civil society organizations, experts, professionals, academics, also our distinguished members of parliament and distinguished members of representing the diplomatic community, international financial institutions, our donors, and friends. First of all, thank you very much for coming here today, being a weekday and a morning. I'm sure you had many other engagements, but you have accepted our invitation and given your time to be with us today, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We want a system change. We want a future for us, for our children. We want accountable governance. We want to see transparency. We want to see recovery of stolen assets. We want a corruption-free Sri Lanka. These slogans, do they resonate with you? Like Shalan mentioned, they were very loud and popular last year when our youth led an unprecedented, peaceful people's uprising, a protest for over 3 months. And in fact, giving an example around the world, persevering until they wanted some level of accountability from the leadership at that point. And one thing remained though. This came within an economic crisis. And I don't need to explain to you what the economic crisis was about, but it felt like we all know. But what was the unique thing about this crisis and this people's uprising? Probably for the first time, that Sri Lankans from all walks of life connected high-level governance and their bread and butter. High-level governance and their ability to live their day-to-day life. Governance and economy. That's why when the economic crash, when we hit bankruptcy, and there were issues in the world, like the war in Ukraine, or we were just coming after a pandemic, but people knew, yet, many countries face this, but we would not have hit bankruptcy if we had our governance in order. People understood there was a crisis. People understood that we have those to whom we have entrusted the stewardship of our nation, our public resources to take decisions on our behalf for our future generations have not done that job. So that call is still there. People are unable to protest in the same way now. And much has happened since then, and certain steps with the support from the International Monetary Fund and other bilateral donors and financial institutions such as the World Bank and the ADB, the nation is slowly running again. However, there is a question. Is this economic recovery? Have we addressed the root causes of the crisis that led to the economic recovery? If we don't address these root causes, it may look like the problem is sorted, but it can erupt again. It's like you put a plaster on a wound. It looks good, right? But if you don't really put the medicine needed, the wound will go under and it will become worse. and it will come up again one day. And this is the issue that today we are trying to deal with. Civil society organizations, along with TISL, you can see the logos here. What we realized was that right now, at this point, is a unique moment in Sri Lanka where our actions of our rulers, actions of citizens of civil society will determine whether we recover as a nation or not, whether we'll use this opportunity, this difficult situation to actually learn our lessons and make a change, a lasting change that will change the direction of Mother Sri Lanka. For our children, at least, right? And then we realized that there was a gap in terms of really identifying and articulating what this system change needs to be. There is a technical aspect in that. People understood that people see corruption in their day-to-day life, but people understood that this is also corruption at a very grand, high level. This is about the systems, whether the accountability structure is working, whether separation of powers is working, and how these things all became macro-critical we saw last year. And hence, it was important to identify in an evidence-based way, what are the problems, and then with the input from the people, identify possible solutions. And we need to start immediately, then short term, medium term, long term. It's a long journey, but this is a moment to get going. Otherwise, it may seem like we are managing, but we may not be addressing any of the governance issues that led to the crisis. Therefore, a group of us just thought, it's not that we did not have our usual work going on in our organization, but we thought this is a moment for our country that we need to do this. We need to use our expertise and also our stakeholders that we work with, everybody's input together, get everybody on board, and identify the problems and the solutions, and then, give that guidance to the government and the development partners as they try to steer the economy in the right direction. Hence, we came up with this civil society initiative for anti-corruption reform for economic recovery. I know it's a long name, but this connection is so important. We need anti-corruption reform for economic recovery without addressing the corruption problem. And corruption means the abuse of entrusted power for personal gain. Without addressing that, we can't address the crisis. So we then came together, and hence we then, of course, we commissioned this to an experienced consultant, Professor Arjun Parakrama, and of course, considering the speed at which the political decisions are being made, it had to be, in a sense, rushed. I mean, this kind of study, we could have done it for a year even, right? And consulted more and more people, but it had to come at the right time as well. And we are not saying that this is perfect, however, it gives you a very important, valuable guidance. It sheds light to some critical governance, anti-corruption reform that are essential to ensure that this money that is being injected to our nation through the IMF and other development partners will not get re-corrupted, but will be used in the proper way to uplift the country and to bring equitable and sustainable economic recovery. So I welcome all of you and to give your full attention as we take you through the contents, the findings and the recommendations. And thereafter, in your respective capacities, please be champions for this change. We need all the support we can get to push for this change, and let's do it for our country. Thank you again for being here.